When I first moved into this neighborhood by the lake, I thought I'd finally found my little slice of peace. The houses were charming, the lawns were always neatly trimmed, and the sunsets over the water, absolutely unbeatable. Of course, there was an HOA, and not just any HOA, but the kind that holds monthly meetings, sends color-coded letters for minor infractions, and probably has a dedicated folder just for grass height violations. I figured, how bad could it be? Pay my dues, follow the basic rules, and mind my own business. Easy. I live with my younger sister, who's in middle school, and my service dog, Scout. Scout isn't just my helper, he's practically a neighborhood celebrity. Sometimes, my sister's school even invites him for special events to teach kids about service animals. Yes, service dog at school has been a thing here for years, and never once caused trouble. So, moving here felt like a fresh start. I didn't know then that I was about to meet the one person who could turn a calm lakefront life into a full-blown HOA nightmare. It was a Tuesday afternoon, just 3 days after I'd moved in. I was unpacking boxers in the living room when I heard 3 sharp knocks on my front door, the kind of knocks that don't just say someone's here, they say you're in trouble. I opened the door to find a woman standing there, maybe late 50s, khaki shorts, polo shirt, visor cap, and a clipboard clutched in one hand like it was a weapon. "You must be the new resident," she said, not smiling. "I'm Karen, HOA president." Before I could even introduce myself, she glanced past me into the house, like she was inspecting it, and then zeroed in on Scout, who was lying by the couch, wagging his tail. "Is that your dog?" she asked, as if I'd brought home a wolf. "Yes, that's Scout. He's my service. He's too noisy," she interrupted, "and I don't think he meets our HOA breed guidelines." I told her Scout was well-trained, registered, and had never caused a problem in any community we'd lived in. She didn't care. Noise complaints are taken very seriously here. If I hear another peep out of that animal, I'll start issuing daily fines. And I'll be bringing this up at the next HOA meeting. With that, she scribbled something on her clipboard, gave me a tight little smile, and walked away like she'd just delivered a court summons. That was the exact moment I realized living here wasn't going to be as easy as I thought. Over the next 2 weeks, my mailbox turned into a threat delivery system. First, it was a friendly reminder from the HOA about keeping pets quiet. Then it escalated to official notice of violation 3 in 1 week, all claiming Scout had been barking excessively at random hours of the day. Funny thing was, Scout doesn't bark unless someone's at the door, and according to the timestamps on the incidents, I wasn't even home. I started noticing the way my neighbors looked at me, not unfriendly, but cautious, like they wanted to say something but were afraid Karen would hear about it. Finally, my next-door neighbor, Mrs. Patel, caught me in the driveway. She leaned in and whispered, "You're not the first one she's done this to. Last year, she targeted the Wilson's golden retriever for being off-leash. The poor thing was a certified service dog, went to school every day with their son." Apparently, Karen didn't just file HOA complaints. She actually called the police on them during school hours, claiming the dog was dangerous around children. The cops showed up, saw a gentle service dog lying quietly under a desk, and ended up questioning her instead. From what I heard, she nearly got herself arrested for filing a false report. That's when I realized this wasn't about noise. This was about control, and Karen was willing to go to ridiculous lengths to get it. At this point, I knew I couldn't just wait for Karen to get bored and move on. If she'd gone after other families, and even tried to get a service dog at school removed, then I was next in line for the full HOA Karen treatment. So, I decided to play her game, but by the book. I emailed Karen requesting a full copy of the HOA meeting minutes for the last 2 years, along with the complete bylaws. Legally, as a homeowner, I'm entitled to that information. Her response: "These documents are for board. Use only. I'll provide a summary at the next meeting. That was lie number 1. Over the next week, I sent 3 more requests, certified mail this time, and each time she came up with a new excuse. The files are being updated. Our secretary is on vacation. We're still gathering the necessary permissions. That's when I realized I didn't need her to give me the documents. I just needed to find someone who'd been around longer than she had. Enter Mr. Simmons, a retired lawyer who had lived here since the 90s. He laughed when I told him my problem and handed me an old, yellowing binder from his garage. Inside were the original HOA bylaws from 1995, buried on page 42. Section 8 was a single sentence that made my heart race. Any board member caught falsifying citations or misrepresenting HOA rules shall be immediately removed from the board and shall forfeit all residency privileges within 90 days. Translation: if I could prove Karen was lying in her complaints, she wouldn't just lose her position, she'd have to pack up and leave the neighborhood entirely. Now, I had a plan. With the 1995 clause burned into my brain, I knew exactly what I needed proof. Not just hearsay, not just neighbor gossip. Solid, undeniable, play-it-in-front-of-the-whole-HOA proof. So I went full detective mode. I bought 2 discrete outdoor security cameras and positioned them just right. One aimed at my front gate, the other covering the side yard where Scout usually naps in the sun. Both had motion alerts straight to my phone. For 3 days, nothing happened. Scout snoozed. I worked from home, and Karen seemed to have vanished. I almost started thinking maybe she'd backed off. Then, on the 4th afternoon, I got a motion alert. I opened the live feed, and there she was. Karen, in her signature visor, creeping along the side of my yard with her clipboard. She crouched down near the fence and pulled out her phone. That's when it got weird. She tapped her phone screen, and suddenly the sound of loud, frantic barking filled the air. Scout. He was in the frame, passed out on the porch like a lazy cloud, tail twitching in his sleep. Karen held her phone up, walked slowly along the fence line, and snapped photos, each one carefully framed, so it looked like Scout was barking at her. She even wrote something down on her clipboard before leaving, smirking like she'd just won a prize. What she didn't know, she'd just given me exactly the ammunition I needed. When the night of the HOA meeting rolled around, the clubhouse was packed like I'd never seen before. Word had gotten out, apparently. My issues with Karen weren't exactly a secret anymore. People were standing along the walls, arms crossed, eyes locked on the front table where Karen sat in her usual presidential spot. She looked confident, smug even. First on the agenda, she began, is the ongoing noise complaint regarding Mr. Johnson's dog. That's when I stood up. Actually, I interrupted. I think everyone here will want to see this first. I pulled out my laptop, connected it to the projector, and hit play. The footage showed Karen creeping along my fence, phone in hand. The fake barking echoed from her phone speaker, while Scout slept peacefully in the background. Gasps filled the room. Someone in the back whispered, "Oh my God." Karen's face went pale. That's taken out of context," she stammered. I didn't stop there. I brought out copies of 3 other families' violation notices, all citing events that didn't match timestamps from their own home security cameras. One neighbor's so-called off-leash incident. The dog was inside their house all day. Another excessive barking complaint. The family didn't even own a dog. By the time I finished, Karen wasn't looking at anyone. She just stared down at her clipboard like it might save her. The HOA board members huddled together, whispering. Finally, the vice president stood up. Per Section 8, Article 42 of the HOA bylaws. Karen, you are hereby removed from the board, effective immediately. And as you know, that also means you have 90 days to vacate your property. The room erupted, some people clapping, others just shaking their heads in disbelief. Karen gathered her papers, muttered something under her breath, and walked out without another word. The board didn't waste time. After the meeting, they held an immediate vote. 5 members, 5 yes ballots. Karen was officially out as HOA president, and more importantly, the 1995 rule meant she was no longer allowed to live in the community. The very next morning, an official notice to vacate was taped to her front door. Per Section 8, Article 42 of the HOA bylaws, you have 90 days to sell or otherwise vacate the premises. Neighbors walked by all day, pretending to check their mail, just to catch a glimpse of it. I even overheard one guy mutter, "Guess karma's got a lake view." Now, for the first time since I moved in, my mailbox was quiet. No friendly reminders, no violation notices, nothing. Scout lounged in the yard without me worrying about fake complaints. Karen, on the other hand, stopped attending any neighborhood events. Her once perfectly trimmed lawn started to look patchy. She was still living there, but it was clear she was counting the days, and I was counting them too. About a month into Karen's 90-day countdown, I was chatting with Mr. Simmons, the same neighbor who gave me the old HOA bylaws. Out of nowhere, he chuckled and said, "You know what's funny? Karen's own dog isn't even allowed here." I raised an eyebrow. Turns out her big fluffy Mastiff mix exceeded the HOA's 60-pound breed limit by a solid 30 pounds. She'd kept it under wraps for years, using her position as president to overlook the rule for herself. Now, without the power to rewrite or ignore violations, she had no way out. 2 weeks before her move-out date, I saw her loading dog, toys and a large crate into the back of a van. She was rehoming her own pet before leaving the exact fate she'd threatened other families with. On her last day, a moving truck pulled up early in the morning. By noon, most of her stuff was gone, and the neighbors gathered at my place for a low-key goodbye barbecue. We didn't invite her, obviously, but we had a perfect view of the street as the truck rolled away. Scout lay at my feet, tail wagging, while we all raised our glasses. To peace and quiet, someone said, and to Karen finally finding a new HOA to terrorize. I added, for the first time since moving in, the lake felt calm again.